Why, hello there, everybody. We made it to another Thursday, the last Thursday in February of 2022. That's right, it's February 24th. Just one more day, and we get to go on a weekend. But unfortunately, World War III is happening, so some people are not going to be able to enjoy their weekend unless they like Civil War. And I'll get back to that. So, in case you are living under a rock, which I seriously doubt, or if you've been on Twitter, Russia has actually taken part more of Ukraine, or yeah, Ukraine, and I'm not exactly sure if where he stopped, but I think he only took parts that are pro-Russia and left the rest alone. And the response from the world is okay. So everybody thought this was going to start World War III, where we're going to retaliate because Biden was going to send in the troops. But is he? Question mark. I don't know. Doesn't seem like it. But according to this NBC News, politics, White House Biden announced new measures response to Russian invasion of Ukraine by Lauren Egan or Egan, Washington D.C. President Joe Biden on Thursday announced what he characterized as a harsh new rounds of sanctions against Russia just hours after Moscow launched an attack against Ukraine, purging Europe into one of its greatest security crises since World War II. But is it? You're using these words like World War II, and I'm using World War III. But does it really mean? Is it really that critical? Speaking from White House, Biden criticized President Vladimir Putin for his naked aggression against Ukraine and vowed to make the Russian leader a pariah on the international stage. You know, he asks you not to make Ukraine a NATO state, and yet you went and made moves to make Ukraine a NATO state. He wants the buffer state. He has security concerns that are being ignored. Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war, and now he and his country will bear the consequences. No, actually, you are the aggressor. America's been aggressive for a lot of wars we get into. I don't think people realize how much of an aggressor or a bully the United States really is. Pretty much NATO's whole role was to fight the USSR, and we thought once the USSR would crumble, and now we have Russia and we have the other states, things will get back to normal. But apparently, the idiots in charge got elected during the heights of the Cold War, and they seem to be stuck in the Cold War era. Now, I'm not saying Putin is in the right here. I'm not saying he's the good guy. I'm just saying, looking from the Russian side, a point of view, it seems like the world was already at war with him. He was already the enemy of the world, and people were ignoring his need for better security on his border. The rest of the world pretty much ignored him and kept on going. And Putin ain't no punk. And he's going to create himself a buffer state. After weeks of touting diplomatic solutions, the invasion shifted Biden's tone. I mean, you're pretty much aggressive. Biden was aggressive. Blinken was aggressive. Don't really know about the European leaders. The only one that really wasn't aggressive was the prime minister or the president of Ukraine. I think it's the prime minister. There's a complete rupture right now in the U.S. Russian relation. He said, when asked by a reporter about the relation between the two nations, the new sanctions restrictions the export of some products from the U.S. to Russia, blocking Moscow's ability to acquire semiconductor chips. They got China right next door, and other technology essential to defense, aerospace, and other critical sectors. The sanctions also target Russian banks and the elites with close ties to Putin, freezing every asset Russia has in the U.S. And you think he has all of his money in the U.S.? You think his powerful friends has all the money in the U.S.? I'm pretty sure it's only a small portion. Biden has also authorized U.S. forces to be deployed in Germany and said NATO allies will convene a summit on Friday to map out the next steps. I mean, he invaded. Shouldn't there be an invasion of our own if this was serious? The presidential reiterated his commitment to not send American troops into Ukraine to fight Russians. No, the EU needs to be sending troops. But he said that the U.S. will defend its NATO's ally if Russia's advances beyond Ukraine. There's the red line, and Putin knows that Ukraine is his. Biden announced that an initial narrow round of sanctions against Russia on Tuesday after Putin moved the troops back into Moscow back into the breakaway regions in the eastern part of Ukraine, hoping to deter the Russian leader from launching a large-scale invasion of Ukraine. Biden warned that there would be more severe actions would be taken against Russia if Putin were to escalate the situation. He's pretty much escalated it, and you're putting sanctions on him? Thursday announced the stop short of cutting Russia off from SWIFT. The Belgian financial messaging system links more than 11,000 financial institutions over 200 countries and territories. It did not directly sanction Putin. A move by the U.S. and Europe to kick off SWIFT or Russia off SWIFT have been characterized by some financial experts as a nuclear option, with some warning it could have negative impacts on the global economy. Do it. I mean, don't be talking about it. Do it. He's already escalated. He's already in Ukraine. Biden says that the European allies were opposed to kicking Russia off of SWIFT, but argued that sanctions announced these weeks were more consequential and said that they could always revisit Russia access to SWIFT. Biden said the sanctions Putin would still be on the table. Moscow launched a broad attack on Thursday, bombing Ukraine's cities and infrastructure as Russian troops attempt to advance towards Kyiv. Oksana Markarova, Ukraine ambassador to the U.S., said dozens of Ukraine citizens have been killed. Only dozens? Man. If it's only dozens, that's really not a whole lot. I mean, that's, was it 12, 24, 36? I mean, it's terrible that they lost their life, don't get me wrong. Ukraine, his president, Volodymyr Zelensky, called on Ukrainians to take up arms in defense. The defense minister also announced that small arms will be distributed to all veterans and volunteers. Biden's been adamant about not sending U.S. troops to Ukraine to fight Russia, is relying heavily on sanctions to punish Moscow. That's because people like me, and there's more of me, that doesn't want war with Russia. Because once we kick that off, there is no turning back until one of our empires is destroyed. Biden urged Americans to have patience with the sanctions and saying that they would take time to weaken Russia, about 20, 30, 50 years. And he warned that Americans could feel some economic pain from the invasion, but that he expected the impact to be short-lived. My question is, what do we get from Russia? I mean, gas is going to be expensive because we're no longer energy independent. Hey, you know that pipeline that Trump approved that's been building for the past 4 years that you canceled a year ago? That'll be the perfect time to restart that project. I'm just saying. The president said that his administration was actively taking steps to make sure that gas prices would not climb even higher and warned oil and gas companies do not take advantage of the moment to raise prices. Well, let us have supply. Let's open up our supply here. Let us tap American oil. That will help lower the costs. Don't get me wrong. Now, of course, he's going to say that the gas prices are up because of price gouging, which is completely BS. Is because there's a limited supply that's out there. I mean, you get the Middle East pumping very little because of Trump decided to be energy independent, which means they're not going to be pumping gas for us as much, which is raising gas prices, which is causing the inflation or some of the inflation we're seeing. Doesn't really take an not oil, but a financial expert to understand that. The president said his administration was actively taking steps to make sure gas prices won't climb even higher. Warren B. I already read that. I'll do everything in my power to limit the pain the American people are feeling at the gas pump. Reopen the gas line, the key line, I think it's the key line, pipeline. That's it. Allow us to tap into American oil again. Let the Canadians pump their oil to Houston for refinery. That's gonna reduce the prices at the gas pump. But no, that makes too much sense. And green energy and climate change. This is critical to me, but this aggression cannot go unanswered, Biden said. American stands up to bullies because we're bullies ourselves. No, Biden could have stopped this at any time. European Union could have stopped this at any time. But we chose not to. We chose to ignore Russia. We net when Russia says they wanted something, we said no. So he took it by force. Anyways, as much as I want to really take Russia's side, at the end of the day, I'm an American patriot and I will side with America. But we also have to recognize that this was Americans' war to start, this was the European war to start, and Russia is only doing its best interest for Russia. That's it. Russia had some security needs that were being ignored, and he got tired of being told no. So he took it upon himself to create a buffer state. And also keep in mind, I am not ignorant to the fact that he wants to get the old USSR back together. I am not an idiot to not realize he wants to do that. I'm not saying he's the perfect person. I'm not even saying he's a good guy. I am just saying, as a leader, he is doing what he is doing for the good of his country. And unfortunately, the rest of the world does not want him to do what's best for his country. And with that being said, leave a comment down below on what your thoughts are. Smash the like and subscribe button on any and all platforms, or just the platform you're currently watching on. But most importantly, have yourself a wonderful day, morning, or evening.